Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reality Bites, the show where we talk about all of the greatest hits reality TV shows have to offer. I'm your host, Jake Schaff. Let's get started. So, folks, we're finally at the point of the game that we've all been looking forward to. Not only is it finally time for the three tribes to become one and for the merge portion of the game to start, but it's the first showdown of the eliminated contestants to see who's going to return to this crazy game we call Survivor. Now, with the last elimination, with Yule going home, this obviously drew a pretty big line in the sand of the new school players truly dominating this game, while all the old school players have been completely evaporated and shunned to the edge of extinction. It's been 19 days, and out of all the people eliminated, only Sandra chose to raise the flag. Everybody else still has that fighting spirit and believes they have a chance to come back and really dominate this game. So, with all these exciting events to look forward to in this episode, let's get right into it. Survivor, Season 40, Episode 8. This is where the battle begins. Right now. So, we start off the episode just jumping right into it. We go straight to the challenge, and everyone is surprised to see Yule going home, and everyone realizes that all the old school players didn't stand a chance. And honestly, I don't think it was intentional for that to be the way at first. I mean, obviously there was the old school alliance on the Saley tribe, but with the other instances, like the people that weren't on Saley, that were on to call from the start, I think for them it was just luck of the draw. It was scenarios. It was them being threats. Like, Sandra wasn't targeted because she was an old school player. She was targeted because she was Sandra. Same with Yule. He was targeted because he's a smart guy. He knows a lot when it comes to numbers. Like, it wasn't because the new school players only wanted to play with new school players. It was simply because they knew who the threats were and they wanted to get rid of them. So I think that's one thing people have to keep in mind when they start complaining that all the good players were sent home early. Well, yeah, of course they were sent home early because they were good players. These people knew who to target. They weren't going to just sit back and let Boston Rob just walk straight to the $1 million towards the end. That happened once before, and I don't think anyone wants that to happen again. So, everyone shows up for the returning challenge, and of course, Probe says, drop your buffs, we are merged. Everyone gets black buffs, even though it looks like the merge color is yellow. I know there's yellow on the buff, but I think the merge color should have been black. I don't know. That's a weird little nitpick. The merge tribe name is called Koru. I don't know what that means. I tried looking it up. It's probably some Fijian word, but I couldn't tell you what it meant. I only know this was the tribe name because I caught a glimpse of the name at one point during the episode. So, with that straightened out, Probst calls all the eliminated contestants back onto the beach for the returning challenge. And before the episode, and before everything got started, I made myself a little list in my head of the order in which I wanted people to return into the game. Now, keep in mind, I made this before I saw the episode, and I think after I watched the episode, I was really happy with who ended up coming back, even though they were really, really low on my list originally. So my list was, at the top, I really still wanted Ethan to come back. Next was Yule, then Boston Rob, then Parvati, then Natalie. I mean, I didn't really want Natalie to come back, only because I wanted it to be one of the old school players, but because Natalie had so many fire tokens and had done so much on the edge, I was curious to see what she would do if she came back. So Natalie, then Amber, then Tyson, and at the bottom was Danny, only because I think Danny said like maybe 3 words since she was eliminated. So Probst is talking to everyone that's been sent to the edge, and they share how things have been, what this means to them, and why this is so important for them to win. Not just to come back to the game, but to prove that they really belong with this group of winners. Natalie was stating how she was really biding her time that she's worked hard, and we've all noticed it. And the big surprise during this conversation to me was Tyson. When Probst went to Tyson, we've seen, is a very stoic person. He has like a very dry sense of humor. He uses it as kind of a defense mechanism sometimes. And this is the first time I've really seen Tyson break down and get emotional. I mean, I'm sure he's done it before, but he was talking about his family. He was talking about his kids. And from there, I was already starting to get the sense of, are they making it seem like Tyson's going to be coming back? I wasn't sure. And then they cut over to Rob. And even though Rob was only third on my list, I expected him to pull out the win. Like, Rob was third on the list of who I wanted to return, but Rob is who I thought would have returned. And Probst is talking to him about how he and Amber are on the edge, and Probst is like, is there any romance at all? And Rob's just like, hell no. This isn't about romance for us. It's about winning Survivor. We gave up a lot for us to both come out here, and we want to make sure that one of us wins this game. And already, in Amber's eyes, I think she rather wants Rob to win than herself. She even gave him her only fire token that she had to try and help him out any way he can so he could buy an advantage. Oh yeah, that's another thing that they kind of briefly glossed over and I didn't really understand fully until I finished the episode. People did start to buy challenge advantages for this challenge. And even though we only saw Natalie and Rob do so before everyone left to go to the challenge, it turns out that Danny, Ethan, and Tyson also bought an advantage. And Natalie and Rob, I guess, each also bought an idol. I think. I don't even know. That's not even major information for this episode, at least not yet, because neither of them won. But going into this challenge, you had 5 people with a big advantage in not having to dig up a bag of sticks or twine or whatever it was. I don't exactly remember. And then you had Parvati, Amber, and Yul on the other side of the spectrum who had a bit more work to do. So the challenge starts, and honestly, I wasn't sure who was going to pull it out. It could have been anyone. There were strengths and weaknesses for all 8 of the players. But right away, it becomes clear that this is turning into a horse race between 2 people, Tyson and Rob. And sure, everyone else is in the race at some point, but it seems like Tyson and Rob are being the ones most talked about during this battle. And it's fitting, because Tyson and Rob are the 2 poker buddies. I think they were both targeted because of their connections to the other people on other tribes. So I thought this was an interesting showdown. And again, I really wasn't sure who was going to pull this out. In the back of my mind, I was still thinking Rob was going to get this and was going to really shake up the game. But I thought if Tyson won this, I don't know if he'd necessarily be targeted right away, because, I mean, even though Tyson's a big presence, there are a lot other bigger threats on the edge than Tyson. So I thought maybe he could sneak his way back into the game without really that much damage and possibly find a good foundation and get far. And we're going to have to see if that's going to happen, because sure as shit, Tyson won the challenge just barely ahead of Rob. I mean, really, this season has had a lot of close calls when it comes to challenges. But Tyson squeaked it out, and Tyson is officially back in the game and now joins everyone else and has a 1 in 12 shot at winning this game. While everybody else who lost the challenge, their game's not over yet. They now go back to the edge of extinction and now have to wait until probably day 34, 35, I don't even know, for the final chance to return to the game. And they are also now members of the jury. Which, something else has also crept into my mind that I'm curious about. If somebody raises the sale at this point, even after serving as a jury member, if they raise the sale and leave, would they still be a jury member? I don't think so, but I feel like if you've made it to that point in the game, that should be honored. But then again, you remember that infamous incident in Nicaragua when Nyanka and Purple Kelly both quit on the same day. And after that, Probst pretty much said, if you're a quitter, you're not going to be on the jury. So, I don't know. But that would be interesting to see if somebody else raises the sale at some point during the game. But we don't know if that's going to happen or not. So Tyson returns to the game, everybody else goes back to the edge of extinction, and we'll have to see next time how this affects their thought process and see if this deters them from the future in this game, which I don't think it will. So everyone now heads off to the Merge Feast, which of course is tradition with Survivor. And once they're there, we see a brand new menu for the fire tokens, which I'm sure are really going to start coming into play now that we've reached the merge. Like, this is what I've been anticipating for a while. They didn't really come into play so much this time, but I think give it a few episodes and fire tokens are going to be scattered everywhere. But the prices have obviously gone up. You see, and there's also some new items like stealing somebody's reward, or you can purchase like your own personal tarp or blankets, or even just some food for the camp. I didn't see anything for an idol, which was surprising, but it's possible there could be some things from the previous menu that could still apply. I don't know. That's unlikely. So everyone is sitting down, enjoying the feast, and everyone's getting to know each other. There's still people who've never been on a tribe with other people. And one of the big moments that I'm surprised happened was Denise sharing the story of how she outsmarted Sandra, which I honestly think was not a smart move on Denise's part. She could have said a couple details, but instead she just shared everything. She shared the fact that she had 2 idols at some point, and she shared the fact how she pretty much played Sandra into giving her own idol. And I think Denise shared just a bit too much information, because sure enough, after she told her story, everyone in confessional is like, wow, Denise has quite a bit of a resume on her hands. I gotta watch out for her, which is precisely what I expected to happen. You take out the queen, you're going to get a huge target on your back. And Denise lucked out this episode. But in the future, I don't know how long Denise is going to go. But there is something that somebody said this episode that I think does ring true with Denise, in that she is surprising me. I really didn't think she would do this well this season. I didn't even think she'd make it to the merge, and she's playing one of the best games out of everyone here. So I think it's right that she's feared, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind the bigger players, and I don't know what's going to happen with Denise. I don't know if she's going to make it to the finale or if she's going to go home next episode. She's a total wild card. So after the feast, everyone returns to the Sele camp, which is where they're going to be spending the rest of their days. We take a look around. We see that Wendell, the furniture designer, has made quite a few revisions to the camp. Pretty good ones, might I add. And we see him wanting to try to form a bond with Jeremy. Apparently, they've had a connection outside of this game. They've met a few times. And Wendell wants to work with Jeremy and try to build a foundation for a bigger alliance. So they're sharing details. Wendell's explaining his allies to Jeremy. He explains that he's close with Nick and Sophie. And Jeremy's explaining that he's close with Denise and I want to say Kim and possibly Tony. Pretty much everyone that was on the new Dakal tribe. And while Jeremy's into this alliance with Wendell, he's very concerned about Nick. He explains how he wants to be Wendell's number 1 ally, and that if Nick's there, and seeing how close Wendell and Nick are, Jeremy's thinking maybe it would be a smart move to cut Nick out of the equation, which honestly isn't a stupid idea. I mean, Nick's certainly not one of the bigger threats in this game, but that's also precisely why he is a big threat in this game, which I know sounds confusing, but the fact that he doesn't have a big resume is precisely why he should be feared, because it's those people that are dominating this season of Survivor. And I think a lot of other contestants are starting to take notice of that. Because Tyson, wanting to try and make sure he's not sent straight back to the edge, is starting to work around with other people, and he's mentioning good pitches to people like Ben, Tony, and Jeremy, how it's the bigger players that are being targeted and how they need to stick together and get rid of the kind of the, I don't know how you'd phrase it, the stragglers, the people with lesser resumes than them. So you see people like Michelle and Wendell and Adam, all these people who have played the game fairly recently, and people who haven't had as much experience or made as big of flashy moves as people like Tony and Jeremy have, which honestly is a really good idea. Because like I said, they're the ones that have been really kicking ass in this game. And if the big players want even a little bit of a chance at trying to make it to the finale, they got to get rid of some of the free agents. So the next day comes, and it's clear that Denise is probably the biggest threat out of everyone there. At least that's what it looks like. Again, mainly because she's the one who got rid of Sandra. And it sounds like that if Denise does not win immunity, she could very well receive a lot of votes at Tribal Council and possibly even be eliminated. So we head over to the immunity challenge, and I just got to be honest real quick. The immunity challenge was the one where it's like you got to latch on to this giant pole with very, very small footholes. And I cannot tell you how much I hate this challenge. Not because I hate to watch it, but because I think if I ever played Survivor, this would be the one challenge I would not want to do. And the main reason for that is I have terrible grip strength. I know I would suck at that challenge. I would probably give up maybe 5 seconds in because my grip strength is that bad. But I have that huge fear of just losing my grip completely and falling straight down from a giant height and seriously injuring a part of my body. That's why I don't like that challenge, and that's why it freaks me out whenever I see it. Because I've seen people fall and really hurt themselves from this challenge. And we even saw it this episode with Michelle. And when she fell, for a split second, I really thought she was hurt to the point that she was going to be medevaced. And that would have been a huge twist for this season, because I don't even know how a medevac would work for the edge of extinction. I'm guessing she would just go straight home and not even deal with the edge, but I don't know. Probably that makes the most sense to me, but I don't know. So everyone comes to the challenge, and to make matters worse, it is pouring buckets rain on everyone. People are shaking, shivering. Sophie can barely speak. So that's going to make this challenge even harder than it's been before. And to make matters more interesting, turns out there are 2 immunity necklaces for this challenge. The last man standing and the last woman standing both receive immunity. And not only that, the 2 immunity winners also each receive a fire token, which was another interesting twist I did not see coming, but I really like. That's going to really help someone get the fire tokens they need. If somebody goes on a giant immunity run, they keep banking these fire tokens, and that's going to give them even more power. So the challenge starts, and like I said, Michelle falls really early. Seems like she hurts herself. I think she's okay. And people are dropping like flies really quickly, including Tyson, who won this challenge back in the token sheens. And soon it comes down to a match between Denise and Kim for the girls, and Nick and Jeremy for the guys. And for the girls, I really wasn't sure who was going to win. It was alternating back and forth. But Denise managed to pull out the win, and she won immunity for tonight, which is exactly what she needed. She saved her butt, and like I said, if she did not have immunity, I really think she would have gone home. And for the guys, Jeremy managed to hold on just long enough, and Nick fell, giving Jeremy immunity as well. So Denise and Jeremy are safe tonight, and they each have one more fire token. And if you guys are wondering how many fire tokens each contestant has, you're going to have to find that out online, because at this moment, I've honestly completely lost track of how many fire tokens every single contestant has. I myself have to look that up. I couldn't tell you. But I think I will start to put a chart together just so I can keep track and help you guys keep track. So hopefully I'll have that ready by the next episode. So anyway, back into this episode. With Denise and Jeremy safe, that really changes who the targets are going to be for tonight. But the new possible big player alliance is once again setting their sights on Nick. It sounds like the topic is between Wendell and Nick, but Jeremy, wanting to keep his alliance with Wendell a secret, decides to try to put the target onto Nick so he at least has a backup plan. And then we also see a montage of Nick just creeping into conversations like a little snake and really leeching a lot of information off of people. So that's pinpointing another reason why Nick is potentially dangerous in this game. He may not be the strongest contestant there, but he's certainly one of the sneakiest. So it sounds like people are starting to come around on possibly targeting Nick. But once Sophie hears this, and first of all, might I add, it seems like Sophie isn't really too keen on honoring her previous alliance with Nick and Wendell. I think she's moved on from the free agents and is more focused on her allegiance to Sarah and trying to maintain some sort of bond with people like Adam. So when Sophie catches wind of Nick's target, and realizing that the lower level players are being targeted, she brings up Wendell's name again, as she realizes how close Jeremy and Wendell really are. And this is another reason why I think Sophie's becoming so dangerous in this game, and why I think she's in the best position to win at this moment. She has a lot of bonds with people, and I don't even think her name has been brought up for elimination once, even with the amount of alliances that there's been targeting each other. If Sophie maintains this notion of just being there for everyone and quietly making moves, I really think Sophie's going to win the $2 million. I know I've maintained my Sophie stance since episode 1, but this just confirms to me again that I really think Sophie could win this game. So, Sophie tries to turn the target back onto Wendell. And once again, word is going out with the bigger players, and they're starting to come around on Wendell too. But Ben, not wanting to leave Jeremy out of the loop, goes to him and fills him in on Wendell being targeted. And Jeremy's not happy about this, so he tries to think of a new target for elimination. And then he mentions Adam's name, and how Adam doesn't really have a ton of allies. He's been very sneaky, and this could be a good opportunity to get rid of someone like him. And once again, we see a montage of people liking that plan. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in on it. This could just be Survivor's way of trying to make it seem like that's the way the vote's going when it's really still on Wendell. So I wasn't sure. They even bring up this plan to Denise. And even Denise is pondering possibly getting rid of Adam. Because as we've seen, Denise and Adam had a close bond the first day of this game. But knowing how Adam's been playing so far, Denise isn't sure she wants to honor that all the way to the end. In her words, she said, just because it was a day 1 alliance doesn't mean it's going to be a day 39 one. So it seems like the target is either Nick, Wendell, or Adam. One of those 3 is going home, and no target on Tyson at all, which proves to me that he was able to sneak his way back into the game without really that much detection. He's allied himself with a lot of big players, a lot of fodder, a lot of bigger targets, and I think Tyson's going to be okay, at least for a few votes. Adam starts to get paranoid because he still sees people talking, and now he starts to think that he's going to be the one blindsided, but he's trying to maintain his cool, trying to make sure he doesn't come off as paranoid, because if you come off as paranoid, that's never a good light. So everyone goes to tribal council that night. The 7-player jury shows up, which is weird to see for a first merge episode, but that's how the Edge works. And it's also the first time Boston Rob has ever been on the jury in an episode of Survivor. He has never served on the jury. He's made it to the finals twice, and the other 2 times he was eliminated right before the jury started. So that was a little interesting to see. People are mentioning during this tribal council how this could be a really big defining vote, because this will show where all the allegiances really lie. And that if you're left out of this vote, consider yourself in deep trouble. And honestly, I really had no clue who was going to get targeted. I thought Nick was pretty much safe at this point. It seems like Wendell was the more talked about option over Nick. And then, of course, you still have Adam on the other side of the spectrum. So I didn't know who it was going to be, but for some reason my money was on Wendell, just because I honestly don't know. Just because he seemed like a bigger physical threat. And I was correct. Wendell was the one blindsided that night at Tribal Council. In a vote of 9-3, Michelle and Nick were the other ones who voted to keep Wendell, meaning even Jeremy decided to cut Wendell loose, figuring that it wasn't worth the fight and that he didn't want to tick off people like Ben or Tony. So with Michelle and Nick outside of this vote, that's going to put both of them in big trouble going forward. But good news for them, they each get a fire token courtesy of Wendell after he was sent home, as Wendell was willing to figure out that they were the 2 who stayed loyal. He's not 100% sure, but he's pretty sure that they were the ones who had his back. So I think Michelle still has the most fire tokens out of anyone here. So now that she has so many, I'm curious if this is really going to help her, and if this could get her some sort of an advantage for the start of the merge. And if Nick gives her the fire tokens, then Michelle's really going to start to become popular. So that's going to do it for this episode of Reality Bites. Sorry if things seemed a little rambly. For some reason, when I was talking this time, I think some of the sentences I was forming sounded a little strange. If things sounded a little weird vocabulary-wise, just try to ignore it. It's late. I'm tired. And for next episode of Survivor, it seems like Nick is trying to pin some sort of a target onto Sarah, but Sarah catches wind of this, and this could spell a giant war for the upcoming episodes, and I can't wait to see it. So that's going to do it for me. This is Jake Schaff signing off. I will see you next time on Reality Bites.